Hey, before the video begins, I just wanted to let everybody know I will be uploading some comparison videos showing this Aqua Terra alongside a few other Omega watches soon, so be sure to check back for those. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Welcome to my channel. You may recognize the watch I'm holding here. This is obviously an Omega. It's an Aqua Terra, which is not written anywhere on the dial. But you can find that information on the case back of the watch. This is the first generation of Omega Aqua Terra. This watch is close to about 20 years old. It's obviously used. It has a scratch here on the crystal, which I hope to eventually get replaced, but otherwise in pretty good shape for its age. And the reason why I wanted to share this watch is that obviously the Omega Aqua Terra from its beginnings has really blossomed into a very popular line of watches for Omega. There are an incredible number of variations available. You could peruse them on Omega's website, but the different colors and materials, there's gold bezel versions, fully gold case versions. Now many of them come on a rubber strap. There are special editions. I think there might easily be over 100 variations of Aqua Terras available today. But in the first generation, the line was much less expansive. There were the quartz models, like the one I'm holding here, available in 36.2 millimeter. Actually, I think it's just 36 millimeter and 39.2 millimeter case diameters. And there were automatic or coaxial automatic versions available in those two sizes, and additionally in a 42.2 millimeter, I believe it is, which was quite a large watch. And the automatic and quartz versions look very similar. Obviously, quartz is a little thinner and does not have any writing on the dial denoting that it's automatic or coaxial. And while I think all of the first generation Aqua Terra are beautiful and quite an exceptional value in the pre-owned market, I think the quartz ones are really where you probably find the absolute best combination of quality and price. And like I said, that's because the quartz versions are essentially exactly the same other than the movement. You have this very beautiful case. I think you could argue that this case is much more delicate and elegant than the cases on today's Aqua Terras. In the case of the 39 millimeter, 39.2, which is my favorite size regardless of quartz or automatic, you have a size which is not offered today by Omega. The smaller 38 millimeter and the larger 41 millimeter are both noticeably different from this size. So even though this is a slightly over a millimeter larger than the current 38, this watch looks quite a bit larger. The crystal on this watch is quite a bit larger because there's no the case doesn't extend that far out beyond the diameter of the crystal. The bracelet on these first generation Aqua Terras is also a highlight for me. I love the design. I think it's just perfect in proportion. Proportion meaning, the size of each link, the spacing, the thickness. It's quite beautiful. It is not, does not have the advanced screwed in links, and overall it does feel less solid than today's Aqua Terras, but by no means is it a deficient bracelet. It does have a somewhat dated clasp mechanism, which Omega used for a long time, not only on these watches but on prior models, both Speedmasters and Seamasters. I don't mind this style of clasp at all. I think it actually looks really nice closed. I love the logo on the clasp itself, and it sort of hides, even though it's there, the rest of the clasp hides in the bracelet very nicely. And it has just one push button, clasp opens and then slides. Very easy to take this watch on and off because it really expands quite a bit. Only deficiency is this screw on this sliding portion is known to fall out quite a bit. I have had to replace those several times before on other watches, and it's a fear of mine with any of these watches with this style of clasp. But that's a minor sacrifice for what is otherwise a very functional clasp. So I'll close that now. Here you get a view of the caseback. It is has a lot of similarities to much older casebacks on Omegas. Even watches from decades ago have a similar looking caseback. I like the old schoolness of it, for lack of a better word. It's just it's something where it's simple but does have a hint of design. It does give you something to look at when you look at the underside of the watch, but it's obviously not the highlight of the piece. Another great feature of this watch to me is its dial. It's very simple. I apologize for having to look at that scratch on the crystal. I am staring at it as I look at the watch now, but try to ignore that. The dial itself is a beautiful liquidy black with no pattern. There were other dial colors offered. The silver dial, which was the first Aqua Terra I ever owned, I don't have it anymore, it was with a sort of a sunburst finish, very beautiful as well. The blue dial, like a metallic blue, I would say is probably the most desirable of the dial colors, and there seem to be less of them around. There were a couple interesting ones, a white dial with gold colored indices and hands, and also versions with like a two-tone gold and steel bracelet, and even entire solid gold versions, which are quite rare, and I see them for sale very infrequently. But every one of the options was nice, and I kind of like the fact that Omega didn't overdo it with 100 different variations at that time. I think they stuck to really probably the most popular and versatile variants, one of which is this black dial, which I think is gorgeous. I also like the indices. They really stand out against the dial. As you can see, it's a very easy watch to read. Always nice to see that the date window matches the dial color as it does here. It also matches on the silver, but on the blue dial I believe it's a white date window. Not a deal breaker, but something to note. And if you see at the toward the outer end of the indices, there's actually a little bit of lume there. Not a great amount, but it can be, I suppose, useful if you are looking at the watch in the dark. And beyond the design and construction, it's perhaps even more important than either of those is how the watch feels on the wrist. And this is a supremely comfortable watch to wear. You can just see it from how thin the case is and the construction of the bracelet. And I can attest to it as having owned others prior to this. It's really, really among the most comfortable watches you can buy.
And here I'll show you the lume. As you can see, the actual dots of the lume are quite small, but they are visible, and I think that can be useful. And here is a view of the watch on my wrist. As I mentioned, this is the 39.2 millimeter case. This is my favorite size for the first generation Aqua Terra. I think it's a size that probably would fit a vast majority of people well. The watch does wear a little bit large for a 39 millimeter case, and that's due to the fact that the crystal is pretty substantial, and there's not much bezel or case beyond the crystal. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm planning to upload some comparison videos showing this watch alongside some others, including newer Aqua Terras, other Omegas such as Seamaster Professional, and other watches as well. I personally really like comparison videos and side-by-side views because it really helps me to understand what a watch would look and feel like in the real world. So again, let me know what you think about this watch, and until next time.